So, Ruben Amorim, he's in need of a new striker. Rasmus, Højlund, Joshua Zirkzee, and the rest of the crew aren't really doing much of a good job at the moment. So, new news about Sesko going to United is possible after they're fighting Newcastle for him. We'll have to see with that one. I'm not really a massive fan of Sesko. However, he could fit into United kind of, mould and progress this sort of player, since they're not really in the market for, like, say, an Ekitike or an Isak, really, because those are kind of players that want to kind of get on with their career. They want to start, progressing, because they feel like they've kind of hit that phase where they're at a point where they can start competing. Whereas Sesko, there's still a lot to improve in his game. There's still a lot to do. So let's start here on Rasmus Højlund. He's been the main striker for United last season, and yeah, like a lot of people have said, he's not impressed. And just looking at some of these stats, like, they're really god awful, if we're gonna put it frank, to be honest. Looking at the non-penalty goals, 0.3, it's basically nothing at the end of the day. And his XG is not much higher than that. So he's not getting too many chances, and then the chances he's getting, he's kind of putting them away. But Højlund is the type of player to not help himself either. He doesn't really get involved in the game. He kind of starts, pressing on different players that don't need to be pressed, fighting them, backing himself on them. So yeah, he doesn't really help himself in that front. So United really do need a new striker. However, his assisted goals seem pretty good, but it's not enough for what you need as a leading man under United. And if you're looking at some of these strikers, these are kind of players that aren't really well regarded, or they've come off quite a lot, like your Lukaku or Vardy, who's 40 plus now. So yeah, it doesn't look great, does it? And just having a quick look at Joshua Zirkzee, he's a better player. He can play a bit more. He's like he said himself, he's a 9.5. He's not really a 9. He's not really going to get you the goals. If you give him a chance, he'll probably score it, but he's not really looking for that. He's rather facilitating play. He's almost that, I guess, if there's an archetype to really put him under, is that Firmino kind of role, even though he doesn't really have that same potency for big game goals. He did score the penalty, and he did get a winner, so I can't really say that yet, but he doesn't have those games under the United under his United belt at the moment. So his passing and things like that, his dribbling is pretty good. You look at him, you kind of see him as like that Ekitike. He's a dribbling kind of player, a bit of a passer. You see the skills, tall, lanky style. But is that really what United need, especially with the signings like Cunha and Mbeumo in? I don't know. Maybe not. But when you have players that are wingers / not really, you do need that striker up front to finish off the chances. You need somebody who's going to press that front line and actually make progressive runs that make sense, that cause goals to happen out of nothing. We talk a lot about Núñez being not so great, but he does that very well. That's probably why Liverpool went after him right at the beginning. He causes problems, he causes issues for these defences, and he eats them up. He gets plenty of shots, obviously not on target really, but you can see why Liverpool went after a striker like that. When you get people saying that, okay, we should take the punt on Sesko like that, it's kind of coming at not a really, well thought out way. It's just that, okay, Liverpool took a punt on somebody, let's just say United, let's take the punt on the next big up and coming player. But that's not always the case. But let's get right back on track. If we're looking at Højlund's shots per 90, let's take a look. He's taking about 1.5, and on target I don't think it's very good. Let's see down here if there's any. Let me just quickly press. Let's see here. Yeah, shots on target is not even, maybe 1 a match, and that's not elite at all. His pressing is quite low as well. I have a document up here somewhere. His pressing per 90 is only 11, and that's really not good enough for an elite striker, especially somebody that needs to play for United and lead that line. It's not good enough. I'm sure Zirkzee has similar numbers as well. It's just not good enough. So I guess we'll quickly go through this document. So his expected goals per 90. Some of the main stuff that I highlighted on each player. Just the main things I think stand out. So his XG is 10.2. And he got 9 goals last season, so slightly underperforming. But then he also suggests maybe he's not getting the best of chances. But after watching a lot of Højlund matches, you could tell he doesn't really help himself out with that. He's not got the characteristics of an elite striker. Maybe something for a lower Premier League side, but not United. Shots per 90 is 2.1, or like we saw before, about 1.75. This is all varying from different sites. But yeah, he's only getting about maybe 1 on target, and that's nowhere near good enough. You need at least two to 3 almost on target each match to be, getting anything substantial at all. His pressure's 11, like we said. If you want an elite striker, an elite pressing striker, especially somebody like Amorim would want, somebody to lead his line, you need way more than that. So maybe, I don't know, Højlund's maybe not capable of it, or maybe he's not even instructed of it. But looking back at previous Amorim systems with what he did with Gyökeres, that needs to go up. That's a below. That's not really a good level at all. You would expect to see at least 14 to 15 even for an average Premier League striker, let alone 11, which is very poor. And if you guys get a bit confused by some of the explanations or whatever, if I'm going too fast, you can pause, have a read, look at some of these definitions that I've got up here. And yeah, now on to Zirkzee. This is obviously with Bologna, but I thought this was more basis of a better season, or at least the best that you'll see out of Zirkzee. 10 goals, 9.5 XG, so he slightly outperformed it, but it's that same thing where even if the chances increase, it feels like these sort of players, they're not gonna outperform it too long. They kind of just, they'll get a chance and then maybe they'll score. But his shots were a little bit better at 2.2, but it's nothing that great. And we already talked a little bit about Zirkzee and Højlund. So the benchmark of this Amorim striker number 9 that United need to get, it obviously was Gyökeres. Gyökeres had his best seasons under Amorim. He really got the best out of him, and like we said before, he's somebody that's pressing constantly. He is harassing that back line, and I don't feel like Zirkzee or Højlund do that enough, or at least don't do it in the correct places to cause that issue. And if you look at this, just look at that. All those greens, look at that. That's what you'd like to see. So he's scoring about a goal a match. Non-penalty goal XG is about, he's overperforming it. Shots 4, like we said on the Ekitike video, he was doing about 3.75, and he isn't like an out and out number 9 like that, but even he was getting shots up like that. So what you like to see is those 3 to 4 shots per game. It's really a key detail for these elite strikers, or at least elite potential strikers. His assists is good for his position as well. 0.22 per 90. Expected assists is slightly below, but it's about the same, so it might not too much. And yeah, he's gonna get a goal or an assist each match. And then look at that, shot creating actions. I'll just hover over there if you guys don't know fully what that means. But I mean, look at that, he's creating so much for himself and his team. This is the kind of stuff that you want to see from a United striker. Obviously they couldn't get him. Maybe Gyökeres didn't want to go, maybe United didn't have the money, but if they've got the money for Sesko, I'm surprised why they didn't take a better punt at Gyökeres. But maybe he wanted a different environment or whatever, and didn't really want to feel like an Amorim only player. So yeah, I mean, if you're getting compared to Lionel Messi, that's not too bad, is it? So yeah, these are kind of some of the stats that you'd like to see. Going back to the document here, 26 goals in Sporting for Sporting in 24-25. And he outperformed that XG of 23.4 by, what's that, nearly 3 more? That's crazy. Obviously, people can say, okay, maybe that's a bit of a worrying sign. But when you've got seasons like he has, it's almost like you can't really deny it. The punt was when Liverpool went for Darwin Núñez, was he only really had one elite season. And that's probably a big, a big thing maybe going into the future where clubs might be worrying. Having said that, they did just get Ekitike after one good season again, but with different people in charge. Anyways, so yeah, if you look at it, he's getting about 4 shots per match. His dribbles are 2.8. progressive carries per 90. So with Gyökeres, you're getting a bit of a mix of that. He's obviously more of a, let's say, a prime. Let's go for like a prime Lukaku, where he can get involved in play, but then you're not really expecting him to do too much because he's a little bit inconsistent. But where he is potent and where he is dangerous is in that, in that final third, getting behind those centre backs, and really attacking them very aggressively. That's a key thing to note when watching Gyökeres. He's quite aggressive in his play, and you need that sort of character if you want a title challenging striker, or just even somebody getting into a top four, like playing for an elite club. You need that. You can't be timid. You can't have that shy kind of nature that maybe Højlund or Zirkzee or somebody who's too bothered about socials rather than actually getting the goals on the match. So this is kind of like your ideal scenario for what you would want as a Man United striker. However, he's off the market. Arsenal's got him. Their new number 14. So, who do United go after? I don't suggest Esco, but we'll see what happens with that. He could improve. But my first choice is Nick Woltemade. He kind of burst onto the scene this season, and especially this little Club World Cup that occurred, and some of the international tournaments. Playing for Germany. So yeah, he's 22. Let's move over to his FBref. He's 23 now. And he plays for Stuttgart. And just looking at some of these stats, just if you want a base idea, because the channel is really about getting some idea on stats without being over experts. We're trying to just get it so people get the idea behind what you can expect from this player and things like that. So using simple things like this, similar plays, so his stats are gonna look similar. He's compared to Alexander Isak, who's going for 150 million this summer. Marcus Thuram, I'm not a massive fan, but people have liked what he's done this season. So you're looking at Ekitike, George from Lyon, who also had a good season, Mamouche. So looking at these sort of players, is you can see already the better improvement than say a Højlund that we've got up here. Like, look at that, and then look at some of these players. Just simple stuff like that. But okay, going more on the stats and things like that. He's scoring about a goal a game, or a goal every 2 games. Sorry. If you look here, he's doing about 2.5 shots. So he's not on that elite range yet, I'd like to say, but he's not. He's getting close though. He's only 23, 22ish, 23. So he's improving, and it's these kind of stuff that United need to look at. That okay, he's given us a good base, and now let's improve on him. He needs to look at someone like a Gyökeres on where to improve, especially in this Amorim system. So yeah, just getting back onto it, his assists is in the 97th percentile for strikers, and that's crazy. So you can looking at this shot creating actions, 4.38 per 90. So looking at some of these stats, you get a better idea that okay, he is doing something, he is causing chaos in that back line. He's passing the ball, he's attacking the goal. It's that sort of stuff that you'd like to see, that no matter what the team performance is like. I know a lot of people can say that for Højlund, that okay, maybe the team needs to be better to improve him, but if you're a good enough striker, you can cause enough problems and enough goals for yourself, and people can see that. You don't have to be digging that deep to realize this is a gem. No, you kind of get the idea. You see it on the screen that okay, this guy's getting into those positions, he's causing chaos every match, and it's just that if he had a tidier system and better players around him, then the potential could go through the roof. But you just don't see that in a player like Højlund or Zirkzee. Zirkzee is a good bench option, I'll say that, though. But just looking, some of these passes attempted, passes completion, okay, so you kind of get in that mold of, you don't expect to rely upon that too much. You kind of want him up top, just kind of attacking the goal. But yes, looking at some of his progressive carries and passes, his take-ons, his dribbles, his touches, these are all things that you need to see, that he's getting involved in the game. Somebody like Haaland can get away with not getting involved like that, but you either need like elite movement like Haaland to not touch the ball and drag your centre backs, your defenders, your midfielders away from goal or wherever to create gaps, or you need to start getting onto the ball. Then you'll attract the players. So it's good to see these touches, these progressive passes, things like that. He's not just dormant in the match. He's just not, he's getting involved. So yeah, these are all like very clear things that you'd like to see that suggest, the player's good. And if we go back to the document from a little bit more research and looking at his pressures, he's got about 17 per 90. That's kind of getting into the better, more elite kind of striker conversations of, this player has a bit of potential now. He's got that energy about him to be able to do that. Whereas, say, someone like a Højlund, he just doesn't have it in him. So yeah, he's tall, young, and he's very physical. Like what we said before with Gyökeres, is something vital that you need, especially as United number 9. Looking at their past and some of their 9s, they were tough. They weren't like, say, your Zirkzees or your Højlunds, where they kind of get pushed over and they get bullied a little bit. No, they went in very tough, and that's what you need to lead a line for United. Just the pressure that it contains. You can't have something like that. But okay, that's my main probably choice for United. They should really take the punt on him. He shouldn't cost too much. However, you never know with United pricing. They do usually price up a bit. But I'd rather them spend the money on that guy than Sesko. So, a stopgap signing. Mateta. I'm not a massive fan of these stopgap signings. I know people are saying like go after Watkins or go after some of these other players, but I'm not really a massive fan. Maybe do that if you're getting somebody like, I don't know, like a Cavani, like they did back in the day, where he's going to be quite elite for them and he'll be able to mentor maybe some of the younger players coming through. But when you're getting somebody like Mateta, you're almost kind of submitting that, okay, we are what we are and it wasn't really a blip of a season. So yeah, I wouldn't really suggest this, but if they want to go that way, then by all means do it. He just came off the back of his best season, scoring 14 goals and on a XG of 13.5. So he's scoring slightly over than his XG. He's winning 2.7 aerial duels per 90, so you kind of see that he's kind of getting into the battle and rough and tough stuff, and he's not kind of like backing away like some of these other players end up doing. Pressures per 90 is about 15. Like I said, that's a good level for a mid-table Premier League side. That's really good. And like we say, he's a bit of a stopgap, so he's not going to shoot or get too many on target each match. But last season showed that he was coming into his prime and being a little bit more clinical. So maybe he doesn't need to take as many shots. But that's what it is. There's nothing much more to really say about that. I feel like, if you watch Mateta, you kind of understand where I'm coming from. They kind of just need somebody maybe to stabilise the ship, almost like an Igala, like he did a little bit back in the day, back in the COVID season, I believe, where he's kind of coming in just to be an option rather than having to deal with a Højlund or a Zirkzee for the entire season. So, that could win United quite a few points, pushing them back up to the table, to the top half of the table. Okay, now going on to the last kind of suggestion. Jonathan Burkardt, if you want to say it like that. He's young, he's 25 now. And he plays for Mainz, and he's come off his best season as well. Obviously, these are more Bundesliga strikers. I know people have quite a lot of, they're not too sure on these Bundesliga strikers. They're hit and miss. But I feel like that's a lot because people kind of go off the hype rather than the, looking at stats and things like that to back it. So if you look at somebody like Jonathan, let's go move on to his FBref. He's getting recommended to similar players like Matteo Retegui, who I'd say was a very good all-round number 9. He could shoot, he could pass, he could do everything. And like better, if you don't know him, seeing Lautaro Martinez, Alexander Isak, Lacazette, those kind of molds of players where they can do a bit of everything. And obviously last season he did do it to quite a I guess, world-class level for his league. So looking at it, for his non-penalty goals, he got about 0.68 per 90. And he outperformed his XG of that, which was at 0.56. Taking about nearly 3 shots per match, which is what I like to see. When you're getting into these 3 to 4 shots, like I said, I keep saying it, that's when you're kind of going into that elite range for some of these strikers. They're good, proper options for some of these bigger clubs. Yeah, like we see, he's creating a goal or assist every match, pretty much. 2.3 shot creating action, so he's more of the type to poach rather than get too involved. But he's got mediocre kind of stats where he can be the steady Eddie whilst also providing the goals. He's more of the kind of like oddball kind of recommendation. So yeah, like we've said, progressive passes, things like that, touches, he's getting involved in the game. His goals have been substantially better this season. So things like that, like we've talked about, you kind of get the gist of what I'm saying when I've talked before, and then we're starting to look at some of these other players. I wouldn't say this would be my first choice, just because I feel like he could potentially fall too quiet in a match, almost that Højlund way where, if he's going to he needs to get more involved in the match, he needs to get more aggressive. His presses are still fairly decent, I believe, if we check here. Yeah, so he's doing about 19, so he's working hard for the team. But I would say I would want a bit more aggression in him, just to fit what you would kind of want in that number 9 for United. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. You kind of get the idea of what United should be looking for, and they should be doing a little bit more smarter business rather than going after the hype players. They did well with Cunha and Mbeumo, but I'm worried that maybe they're kind of just going after what's kind of hyped. However, those are good pickups. More Mbeumo than Cunha, but still Cunha's a good pickup. United kind of need to slowly start building back up. They can't really kind of go for these elite expensive strikers. I know some might end up wanting to go there because it's United at the end of the day. However, is it a smart thing? I don't know, to be honest. It's not the best option in my opinion. They do need to slowly build up. Obviously, I'm talking from a Liverpool fan perspective. So if you look at, say, our 16-17 season, so we picked up, like, say, Wijnaldum, we picked up Sadio Mane. Obviously, in retrospect, they're very, very good at players, especially Mane being the elite one. But they kind of need to go after these players like they did with Mbeumo and Cunha. But they need to not fall into the hype of the Sesko hype train. They need to kind of allow him to go to, say, a Newcastle first, let him develop there, because I'm not too much of a believer in United's kind of coaching or anything like that. So I think they kind of need to let these players develop in the Premier League and then get them. It's more of an expensive way, but when you're running an elite club, you can't take chances like that. However, I guess United can, given their situation. But yeah, let me know what you think. Please like and subscribe. That'll help me out tons. Please let me know what you'd like to see next. And yeah, that's it. Thank you very much. See ya.